Hey everybody, and welcome back to Occult Perspectives. It's been a minute since I've been on here. I've just been so busy with work and everything else. It seems like by the time I have time to sit down and truly relax, it's the next day already, and there's something else to do. This video, though, I decided to go ahead and do Morals and Dogma Part 3 because we had started that series. So if you have not watched the first two, I recommend that you go back and watch the first two real quick because we started from the beginning of the book. And I have a hardback cover of the book right here. Nice big red old edition. And I'm at the very end in this copy of page 7 going on to page 8. At the end of the last video, we had talked about how the body is the temple of God. So when we profane the temple, we are profaning basically not only ourselves, but a deity as well. You know, our bodies in this life are a gift from Source. Sometimes I'm really rough on my body. You know, I've done so much over the years and just pushed it. And really, I feel like the spirit is like the only thing sometimes keeping me alive anymore. I feel like I've already passed beyond like normal physical existence, and I just feel like this floating spirit like kind of helping this body move along and do its work that it needs to do until the next journey or whatever, that level of time, for all you Masons out there. Okay, so yeah, going on to page 8, and we're gonna see how long this video goes as well, because the last time I did a video, it was the Dante's Inferno one, and the video just stopped like right in the middle of me talking because I had ran out of space on my phone. So I went through and deleted a whole bunch of videos, but what's interesting is that it takes an additional about 40 days or less for those videos to actually get off of your phone, like after you've deleted them. So hopefully I have more space saved up by now. Okay, moving on to page 8. The wisdom and power of the deity are in equilibrium. So wisdom and power, and this kind of goes back to the whole Zelda Triforce thing, which I do want to finish those videos as well. I think I only need to do like one more for the Ocarina of Time. So let's go back. The wisdom and power of the deity are in equilibrium. And if we look at the pillars over here, wisdom and understanding. Yeah, wisdom, understanding, and then you have the middle path. Mildness, severity, and I'm trying to think of what the middle path would be, but it has a name as well. I think it's the path. It's considered the path of mildness, perhaps, because it's right in the center. I refer to it as the middle path, though. It's always good to be between the pillars. Sometimes in our lives we jump from one archetype on one side of the tree of life to the other, depending on what we're dealing with. Okay. The laws of nature and the moral laws are not the mere despotic mandates of his omnipotent will. He's not just like this guy that's sitting up there like, this is how it goes, basically is what they're saying. For then they might be changed by him, and order would become disorder. So they're saying that like God doesn't even change his own rules. It's really a really interesting thing, and this is something that I've been dealing with really, my buddy, me and Joel, and that's the reason I'm doing this video too, is because we have a group chat with some spiritual folks, and one of the guys was asking, because he found out I was a Mason, if I had read Morals and Dogma, and I'm like, yeah, I've totally read that book. And now I'm really going through and dissecting it page by page, rather than just reading the book again. I'm not really into reading. If I'm going to read, I'm going to try to write notes along with it. Dante's Inferno is just so advanced. I'd like to go back and do notes for that. But moving on. What we were talking about, though, is this will, and they talk about it in Dante, too, the will of ultimate source. It's like something that we can study, like how it works, how it manifests, how the divine operates in our lives, but for us to really question the entire process, like I think the closest we can come to that understanding archetypally is through studying the Kabbalah and things like that. But otherwise, the will is so far beyond. It sees so far beyond. I was explaining it to Joel, and he had said that he had the same feelings. It's like if we're men, it works better to think of it as the father archetype. If you're a female, the mother archetype might work better for you. But in all, this primal essence, this original consciousness, is beyond even the dualities of those two. Like any male or female, it's a complete union or unity. But if you understand it from the view of it's like a father that knows better, and it's like I question so much, like, why did certain things have to manifest in my life the way they did? Why did they have to manifest in other people's lives the way they did? Why did people have to go through all the trials? Why did we have to do this? Is it just to prove to ourselves, as we are infinite consciousness having an experience on the physical plane, that we can do it, that we're capable of it? Like, we should already know this if we're ultimate source, but we're separating ourselves as source consciousness to better understand ourselves as source. It's this really strange thing. And it's where the ego really has to let go, because my ego wants to ask why. Why? It wants to scream out. Sometimes lately I've just wanted to scream. I wanted to I have so much so many questions. And really just giving it up. And, sometimes you stoop or bend down in order to receive. It's like when you, that's not really the right word. There's another word for it. But it's like if you take this, just this bow or whatever, and allow the ultimate parent source is always looking out for you. Like everything that's happened in your life, there's so many synchronicities and patterns and stuff. And if you look real closely, you'll start to see that in fact, we are rising and elevating in higher consciousness. And each time around the great clockwork or the spiral, we are rising higher each time with more understanding this time around. But we are essentially rising if that's what we decide to do. There is a way you could descend, I suppose. But I don't know about all that in the Kopothic realms and stuff. It seems like some pretty scary stuff. I say keep your feet planted firmly in hell, but keep your head high, way above the heavens. So it's like you have that dominion over the lower nature, and your head is rising above the heavens because you are free above all that stuff. I'm getting really off topic, but I feel like I had to just talk about that ego part of the ultimate will, because it fits in so well with the beginning of page 8 here. Wisdom and power are in equilibrium and cannot be changed even by the deity's whims. They are the laws which are. So this would be the great I am. We've talked about the I am sayings before. I am perfection. I am divine love. This is our true state, and it's honestly just distractions of the outer self that have led us. We've gotten so caught up in the outer expression that we haven't returned back to source. If we are the temple of God and we look back within ourselves, we realize that we are this source. And we can ascend even higher in our understandings. A great passage about the framework of creation. The will of creation is in harmony with natural law. It is immutable. So there must be some kind of... let me go ahead and read forward a little bit. It says, if God were to just change things, honesty and loyalty would be vices, and fraud and ingratitude would be virtues instead. Omnipotent power, infinite and existing alone, would necessarily not be constrained to consistency. So God's so powerful, though, that there usually is some kind of consistency in creation, but this intelligence, it's so far beyond, is what Albert Pike, I believe, is saying here. It's a lot to take in. The laws of God are not obligatory on us because they are the enactments of his power or the expression of his will, but because they express his infinite wisdom. So like we said before, it's not this guy up in the clouds or a woman or however you're perceiving this ultimate source consciousness. It would be more like an energy, or something even beyond our understanding. You go into the Ein Sof and the other layers beyond the tree of life. It's just so hard to comprehend sometimes. We can try, in our physical bodies, but sometimes you drive yourself crazy really trying to figure it all out. That's why a lot of people later in life, I think they just kind of let things go. I'm cool about letting certain things go, but really it's like that Scorpio nature in me, it really wants to know, wants to cling on inside and ask the why over and over again. They are not right because they are his laws, but his laws because they are right. From the equilibrium of infinite wisdom and infinite force results perfect harmony in physics and in the moral universe. So you've got like the science side and then the theological or the philosophical, kind of more the mental, the morals and stuff. Temperance, fortitude, prudence, and justice were like the 4 original virtues. Wisdom, power, and harmony constitute one Masonic triad. They have other and profounder meanings that may at some time be unveiled to you through deeper degree work. I think more through studying the Kabbalah and stuff, because the degrees of Masonry, as enriched as they are with symbolism, if you don't study the other stuff, you're not going to understand how deep the symbolism and profound it really is in the ritual. Moving on, more on the will of the Creator in this page. Symmetry, proportion, etc. are in his creations. And I often look, if we look at like Greek architecture versus like the Romans or whatever, I believe those were the two. The Romans kind of just tried to copy the Greek architecture, but everything was like proportioned to sacred geometry and divine proportion. And even in our physical temples, they say our physical bodies are often the manifestation of our own thoughts and magic. And it just seems that people are more happy with themselves, that are proud of who they are, not in a negatively proud way, like not looking down on others, but just like, I love who I am. I love life. Those people, they look younger. They seem like they're happier, healthier, fitter. But yeah, just this whole idea of proportion in the temples and stuff, and the proportions of our body too, maintaining a physical body and such. The single wisdom reconciling all dualities, the titanic strength of the society combined with the arts and sciences. So there he's talking about like the titanic strength. We had talked before in like the first Morals and Dogma video about brute strength and the strength of like the mob or the masses. If that can be used to just for the more operative things in the society, like building things, like we need workers to do like a lot of the grunt or the physical work. But if you combine that with the understanding of the right brain of the arts and sciences, it creates this titanic strength. You're combining like industry with arts and sciences. Like you really need both. It's the left and the right brain. You don't want to get too caught up in the arts and get lost and spacey in the right brain, like without the left brain equilibrium, like logical thinking, like just having common sense and a lot of the more just calculative ways of thinking. Let's see if there's anything else on this page we really need to go through. And it talks about here how God he's an architect. He's done everything everywhere. For example, look at the tree, the human frame, the egg, the cells of the honeycomb. Strength with grace, beauty, symmetry, proportion, lightness, and ornamentation. Everything has this like unique symmetry and perfection to it. The perfection of the orator and the poet to combine force, strength, energy with grace of style, music cadences, the beauty of figures, the play, and the iridation of imagination and fancy, and so on. In a state, and the warlike industrial force of the people and the titanic strength is combined with the beauty of the arts and sciences and the intellect. The state would scale to much greater heights and the people would be really free. We're seeing a lot of, in our society today, the left brain prison. We're really stuck in the left brain. Really, really got to open up the right brain again to get in a state. Now, I've been places where it's actually too much right brain. There's not enough left brain energy too. So it does kind of go back and forth both ways on that. But overall, our society is very left brain. And it's very fear-driven, which combined with the left brain side of the brain is very dangerous. See if there's anything else here before we really need to go on. The single wisdom above holds the beam of the scales, the two sides, reconciling the moral law, human responsibility, free will with the absolute power of God, and the existence of evil with his absolute wisdom and goodness and mercy. These are the great enigmas of the Sphinx. Okay, going on to page 9, it starts talking about the pillars, Jacob and Boaz, and these go all the way back to Egyptian stuff, Hindu stuff. The pillars are in like every, you see this common theme. It's in the Bible, in King Solomon's temple as Jacob and Boaz. You enter the temple between the two porches. Goes on to talk about some of the measurements and stuff. The first in the second book of Kings, it confirmed in Jeremiah, it was 18 cubits high with the capital 5 cubits high. The shaft of each was 4 cubits in diameter. I'm not going to go over that stuff. That's getting a little deep into the mathematics and stuff. If you want to look up the ratio of the pillars, that shouldn't be really that hard to find on Google or wherever. Okay. So the pomegranates, it says the capiters or the capitals were enriched by pomegranates of bronze, covered by a bronze network and ornamented with wreaths of bronze. And they imitated the shape of the seed vessel of the lotus or the Egyptian lily, a sacred symbol to the Hindus and Egyptians. And we've already talked about. So the first one means to. He shall establish. That's Jachin or Yakin. And the second in it is strength. So that's where you get strength, is from Boaz. Strength and mercy, the 2 pillars. The columns were imitations by Kurum, which is like a real name for Hiram Abiff. Because I believe it was Albert Pike that talks about like Hiram Abiff is not really even the correct title for his name. Let me see if I wrote anything in this. Kurum, other name for the real Hiram. Okay, yeah, that was right in my notes. Original prototype of pillar consecrated to the winds and fire. Okay, that's an interesting note. Let's figure out where that is. Okay, it says it right here. Kurum, the Tyrian artist, he was from Tyre. The great columns consecrated to the winds and fire at the entrance to the famous temple of Malkarth in the city of Tyre. And I'm guessing the temple of Malkarth is probably something along the lines similar to maybe King Solomon's temple, probably like some ancient like Sumerian weird like pagan temple, like because it's weird because a lot of the like kings, even though they were Christians or whatever, like Solomon, like I don't know, he housed Yahweh in his temple, but there were other temples too. I think that maybe he had, and his harem house was even bigger than the temple meant to hold or the house meant to hold God. So that's kind of an interesting note we've talked about in the Hiram Key videos before too. Talks about the globes that are on each of the pillars. Just goes on, nothing too important here. Yakin, he that strengtheth, and firm, stable, and upright. Boaz, strength, strong, power, strength, might, refuge, source of strength, or a fort. It's talking about some of the Hebrew spellings and the symbology, because each Hebrew letter is like, it has a letter association with it, and also a number correspondence as well. And they also have like an animal symbolism with each one. Not always an animal, but some kind of item associated with each letter. I used to know all the letters and the numbers meaning, or the number correspondences and all that stuff, but I didn't go much further with the Golden Dawn curriculum. I went basically to lesser banishing ritual and then the middle pillar, and then that was already enough for me, and that's pretty much what I still continue to do today, is just the lesser banishing ritual or the lesser invoking and then the middle pillar ritual. I feel like that's a good grounding exercise, though. It's not taking anything too far if you don't have the time or the space to work on the higher grades and such. Okay. The former word also means, so Yakin more here, he will establish or plant in an erect position. That's interesting, because it is the masculine, so we see phallic symbology everywhere, and Masonic stuff, and really all the different mystery schools. Some mystery schools even like worship like the sacred masculine, like they worship that even above like the sacred feminine. I don't think one really takes precedence over the other. It's like it's all about balance to the force, you know. The dimensions of the lodge, unlimited, and it's covering no less than the canopy of heaven. So really the temple is the physical temple, Masonic lodge, or whatever temple it is of whatever mystery school tradition you're doing, is a representation, a microcosmic representation of the universe. I put here, oh yeah, I did make a key. And the Hiram Key discusses on page 23, as I was saying before, how Solomon's temple was a dwelling place for Yahweh, and experts consider its style, size, and layout to be almost a carbon copy of a Sumerian temple erected for the god Ninurta 1,000 years earlier. Yep, some Sumerian god. It's just the old gods become the new gods, I guess, but there's only one ultimate source. As Frater Xavier says, there are many gods and goddesses, but there's only one creator of all. I think that's pretty wise. Yeah, there was some on page 23. Do I have that book handy? Looks like I quoted a whole line in there, so I might as well go back and read it and see what that was. Where does that quote start? Okay, I pretty much... Yeah. It was a small building similar in size to an ordinary English village church and believed to be less than half as big as Solomon's palace. We can guess at where the great king's priorities lay when we discovered that the building to house his harem was at least as big as Yahweh's temple. So yeah, that's kind of funny. I've always thought it's interesting. Yeah, I don't know what Solomon was really up to. They say he was the wisest of all men, but I think he got himself into some deep crap. We'll keep this PG for now. I won't say the other word. Okay, so actually, we're moving on to page 10 now. And this might be, we'll see how much further I get. We're at 21 minutes now. See how long I can keep my mind running without having to take a break for a minute. Okay, so this is where it starts talking about Jacob's ladder, and this is where things get kind of cool. Faith, hope, and charity, but of course, charity is really love. It's just another word for love, and we've confused that in today's society with just like giving donations. Like it's always monetary charity. Like what is real charity? Real charity is taking your time, like, and spending it with somebody, and I think really trying to transmute them and help them in whatever they're dealing with in their lives. And you can probably learn from something from it yourself as well, if you're going through something. Let's see what he says. It's the theological ladder which Jacob in his vision saw ascending from earth to heaven, the three principal rounds of which are faith, hope, and charity, faith, hope, and love. Accordingly, ladder, sometimes with 9 rounds, is seen on the chart, resting at the bottom of the earth, its top in the clouds, the stars shining above it. This is deemed to represent the mystic ladder that Jacob saw in the dream, set up on the earth, and the top reaching to heaven with the angels of God going up and down, ascending and descending. The addition of the 3 principal rounds to the symbolism are wholly modern and incongruous, Albert Pike says. The ancients counted the 7 planets. There was this idea of ascending, like you had to go through all 7 planetary spheres to ascend your soul or whatever. And this is like a common theme in Dante's Paradiso. I'm on Purgatory right now. I'm on like Canto 8 in Purgatory. But once I get to Paradise, I believe he goes through each planetary ring to find his way back to Beatrice and Paradise. One more thing to talk about on the Jacob's ladder is charity's the greatest. It's greater than faith and it's greater than hope, because they say that faith can be lost in sight. You know, sometimes such things, you have this great faith, but the reflection you're getting back in the physical realm, you know. So sometimes things aren't what they appear. There's way more going on. So faith could be lost in sight, you know, or lack of seeing. Hope ends in fruition. Once something has come to pass, like you've achieved that which you achieved, then what? You know, like, but love is forever. Love extends beyond the grave through the boundless realms of eternity, they say. So that means it goes on forever and ever and ever. It's immortal. That's why if I take 5 or 10 minutes with somebody I really care about, anybody who's wanting to talk about these things, I'm not really one for small talk. I try, but anybody that can relate to these things and wants to talk about these things, I love to talk. This is the lifeblood. This is what keeps me going. This and being able to do some music stuff, and I'm a pretty happy camper. Okay, let's go on. The 7 planets, the 7 altars, or the pyres at monuments of Mithras. We'll probably go over that because the Mithra temple, I'm sure, was probably pretty similar to King Solomon's temple. It's very similar to Freemasonry. The 7 candles on lamps in the temples, an idea on the ascent of these, as is often explained in esoteric works. The spirits ascending and descending in Jacob's vision, God standing above the ladder. You know, it's always the all-seeing eye that has the perspective of everything on top, the perspective of the Almighty Creator. So the 7 traditionary... Gosh, I can't talk. The 7 traditional planets are the Moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, and these correspond with the days of the week, of course. There are 7 heavens and 7 spheres of these planets. On all the monuments of Mithras are 7 altars or pyres consecrated to the 7 planets, as were the 7 lamps of the golden candelabrum. Not sure how to say that, but I think it's a Jewish thing. It's like it forks out like this, and then it's got like all the candles like in kind of almost a V, but more of a, I guess it would be more of a U shape almost. You can find that online. Candelabrum. Candelabrum. That these represented the planets, we are assured by Clemens of Alexandria and Hystromata, and by Philo Judaeus, if I'm saying that correctly. To return to its source in the infinite, the human soul, the ancients held they had to ascend, as we were saying before, as it had descended through the 7 spheres. So we actually came down through the 7 spheres. That actually explains a lot, because I feel like I'm a long way away from my true home. You know, I feel homesick here a lot of the time because I just don't really relate to people, and even people that I do relate to, I still have a hard time opening myself up completely and have triggers, and I have more triggers and really kind of things lately more than I've ever had, because I guess I've really opened myself up to more energies and really just trying to do the great work, and maybe there's forces that are, you know, trying to work against me. Would like to think that it's just my own mind really playing tricks on me. That's talk for another day, though. Talk about triggers and things that bother us, and our egos, just like we want it a certain way sometimes, and it just becomes disappointing sometimes when it's not, or I don't know. I have a lot of understanding of things, but I still have a lot of questions, and it's just sometimes you do have to just take a deep breath and relax and realize that everything's it's gonna be cool. I get worked up a lot of the time too. It's a weird world. It's a weird world. I'm looking for a more, you know, perfect world, and that's why I'm trying to help make it. Not, you know, I'm not just wanting to sit down and just give up yet. This is let's fight the good fight. But as we were talking about, the soul descends through the 7 spheres. The ladder by which it reascends has, according to Marsilius Ficinus in his commentary on the Aeneid of Plotinus, 7 degrees or steps, and in the mysteries of Mithra is carried to Rome under the emperors. That was the mystery school that was a lot like Masonry. The ladder with its 7 rounds was a symbol referring to this ascent through the spheres again. So they had this idea too. This is a common theme throughout a lot of old mystery schools. Jacob saw the spirits of God as going up and down, and above it was the deity himself. The Mithraic mysteries were celebrated in caves. Gates were marked at the 4 equinoctial and solstitial points of the zodiac. Solstitial? That would be the way to say it, I guess. And the 7 planetary spheres were represented. Souls must traverse in descending from the heaven of the fixed stars to the elements that envelop the earth, and the 7 gates were marked, 1 for each planet. Okay, basically it's just going on the same. It keeps repeating stuff about these 7 steps, gates, stages. Okay, 7 steps or stages, and at each of these was a gate, and at the summit of the 8th one was that of the fixed stars. And I'm pretty sure that's where Dante and Virgil get to. After the planets, they must get to the fixed stars, and that must be the point, like right before heaven or whatever. So anyway, yeah, this video has almost gone on for 30 minutes. I have rambled a lot in this video, but these videos are almost kind of a way for me to really just get some energy out and get some thoughts out and educate people at the same time, and hopefully you all enjoy it and like it. So Thank you all for watching. I hope you all are doing extremely well. It's about to be a full moon, so take care. It's in Scorpio today and tomorrow, and then the actual full moon, I believe, is not tomorrow, but the next day in Sagittarius. Ooh, that's going to be interesting. So yeah, I think it's already like 97%, so it's almost full, and it's going to be pretty dang full tomorrow. So I'm already feeling the effects of this moon. So tomorrow's going to be interesting. Just keep that in mind. It doesn't mean that, oh my gosh, I have to worry. It's better to just look ahead and see the road ahead and practice prudence. Prudence, is the true definition is you regulate your life and your actions according to the dictates of reason. And it's like looking down the road and really seeing, like, can I really take this here? Should I really do this? Will this really benefit my future? Like, I want to build the life that is best for me and my loved ones. And if it's something that doesn't fit in with that paradigm, then maybe it's not best for me or for us. So there I am rambling again, so I'm going to actually jump off here. Take care, guys. Peace and blessings.